welcome you to Viewpoint, the conversation where we raise topical socio-political issues. And you don't just get to listen, you are given an opportunity to express your views on the issues that we raise. Today, we look at curbing insecurity in Nigeria. Insecurity in Nigeria, and indeed anywhere in the world, is not easy, but is it impossible? It is a globally accepted given that no meaningful progress can be recorded in a state of chaos and insecurity. And just this morning, a friend of mine, resident here in Enugu, woke me up to the sad news and scary incident of the abduction of her cousin, who was kidnapped 5 days ago. According to her, he is between Arondio Izuago and Okigwe Bush. 500,000 naira ransom was negotiated for his release, and the vehicle driver received the cash on Tuesday. But sadly, only the driver was released. Now, they are not able to communicate with him again because it was the driver's phone number that was used for the exchange. And we hear they've been operating there since January 2022. We don't know if he's alive or dead. We don't know who to call. We don't know what to do. No one is sleeping well in the family. We need help. Well, insecurity has been likened to a terminal disease which is slowly eating its way into the system of the country. It stifles economic growth, stability, and development. It constitutes a threat to lives and properties. It hinders commercial activities and discourages local and foreign investors. The big question is, which investor is going to come into a state of chaos? There is a general perception of marginalization by a section of Nigerian people in areas of government development policies, political patronage, and these serve as triggers of disaffection, resentment, and eventual revolt. From ethnic to religious differences, weak security system, terrorism, kidnapping, unemployment to corruption, poor economy, weak border control, uneven distribution of resources, etc. The list could go on, but what is the use of merely identifying what the problems are if we're not willing to make conscious efforts towards curbing them? Of course, the government has been accused of lacking the political will to do what needs to be done to stem the tide of insecurity. Catch us live where the action is on Facebook at Solid 100.9 FM, or call when the talk lines open, 0902 311 109, 0705 079 109. Of course, you can also log on to our website, solidfmradio.com, or download the Solid FM app from Google Play Store so you can listen to us from anywhere in the world. Uche Gabriel is my name, and welcome to Viewpoint, the conversation. Okay, I'll throw my first question to Chinwuba. Are you in any way optimistic that insecurity will ever be a thing of the past in history?
Well, yes, I'm optimistic to the extent that we'll be able to manage the inadequacies we have in our security network. No country in the world is free of insecurity. So you look at crimes or lesser crimes or crimes that have different magnitude. So, but the kind of what I call the kind of terrorism, maybe we'll be able to get to the level, especially in the southeast, where we'll be able to look at and say, yes, we've been able to curb, the issue of insecurity, that also with homegrown homegrown terror would have been reduced to the barest minimum if the commitment of those who are the leaders and those who are led come to a round table to be able to say, let's fix this problem of insecurity. Yes, I'm optimistic to that level. I think so. Yes, we can.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. With the way it's been handled, do you see us ever getting out of this wood?
For me, presently, I don't think so. Presently, in terms of the level of commitment, the level of work that has been put in, especially by the political leaders and the political gladiators, to be able to speak, truth to what the situations are. I've maintained that this kind of security challenges we have in the southeast is self-inflicted. We will look at security challenges in the whole country and look at there are peculiarities of every region with their own insecurity. Right now we're having issues of homegrown terror. I call it what it is. It's purely homegrown terror with support across the populace and the political class, because the ease with which the insecurity in East grew, the ease with which it was manufactured and started growing in the southeast, you will know that it is purely homegrown terror. The kind of stuff you will see when people get shot and you see an Igbo man you bringing out his camera to picture or put up a video about what is going on in the southeast. It has never happened before. So I think to a larger extent I'm not satisfied, especially with the southeast governors. I am not satisfied at all the way I think they have given out the teeth to this bite. I'll give you two examples. One is issues of Bubago. When you establish a security network like Ibubago, you expect to a certain extent it will be funded. There will be issues of how it's going to be handled. But we saw that I think General Umahi came out and said that up to 6 months that no governor has been able to put in one kobo to be able to fund a decent security network. But if you look at Amotokun in the southwest, there's some commensurable level of a little bit of success of them nabbing people or kidnappers, or you see there is some work being put in there. So I'm not satisfied with the way, especially our governors and our political leaders, to solve the issues and security in the southeast. That's my take on this.
All right, let me bring Philip into the mix. There's no doubt that certain people benefited and probably still benefiting from the ugly status quo that we found ourselves in, as against the principle of the common good of the greater majority. So some people are benefiting, and those people who are benefiting probably will want it to continue. So he sees an end to it if we do something. Do you see an end to this ugly trajectory?
Of course, I see an end, but I must point out that the major problem here is not the insecurity, but the way we approach the insecurity. What we have here is what I call militarization of the militarization process or ways of handling insecurity, which I must tell you will not work. At this point in time, we need to approach insecurity through what we call positive peace. Okay. This positive peace is the attitude, institutions, and structures that build and sustain peaceful society. When we say institutions and structures, we are talking about the levels and arms of government, the government agencies, the ministries and parastatals, all working in line with the laws and etiquettes of service. Okay. So now, when you look at Nigerian situation, you find out that the levels of government is almost like a unitary system, where the government at the center is controlling and everybody wants to get to the top. So you see the pressure to get to Aso Rock. But if we come down to practice federalism the way it's supposed to be, the states will have control of their resource, and you see that the resource will get will get down to a layman. And when you talk about the arms, you see the arms are more like handicaps. It's more like hijacked by the executive. The judiciary is not independent to function as it's supposed to be. So you see a situation whereby political office holders, being taken to court, and before you know it, the case fizzles out. The case dies out. And even if they have a jail term, they will not serve it. They come out and then even reclaim what has been seized by the government. So we need to build. One time, American President Obama said something that Nigeria need to build institutions, strong institutions. This is the problem. It's not really about, no matter the number of military, army on the street, police on the street, you can't stop what is happening. What is happening is agitation of people who feel their rights, their privilege have been taken away from them. So you see IPOB in this east, you see bandits in the north, you see everywhere people are agitating because they feel like they have been robbed. So, and this is because government have refused to take bold step in addressing the causes. Conflict of any type is like a tree. It has a root, it has a trunk, it has the leaves. What we are busy addressing here is the leaves, the effects of the causes down the root. So we need to come down and address what is causing these problems. Until we do that, we will keep agitating and we'll keep fighting and we'll keep shouting and nothing will happen. So we need to practice what we have identified as positive peace. Thank you.
One wonders whether peace can be negative.
Of course, that is what we have at the present time. That is where the government thinks that when there's, for example, during the NSAS protest, you roll out military and shoot people and everybody despair. You haven't solved the problem.
Okay.
You haven't. That is negative peace. The problem still remains.
It looks like peace.
It looks like, but it's not peace.
Okay, Chingova, sad to say that the South is not exempt from the insecurity that's ravaging many other parts of the country. In fact, it took time before it got here, but it seems like it's here. Now, what are the triggers fueling this, and how justified are the approaches that have so far been adopted in tackling it?
For me personally, I think that we know how the aggression started. We know that the issues of the Southeast, the issues of agitation, the issues of becoming, being reintegrated since 1970 has never ever worked. Some of us feel that I always ask these questions: why is the Nigerian state always scared if an Igbo man wants to become chief of army staff? Why is the state always scared that if an Igbo man wants to become maybe the CG of customs or wants to become the vice president or the president? There's this class mentality of other parts of Nigeria that once you make an Igbo man become president, that one, it will trigger them pulling out of Nigeria, or two, they'll be able to become stronger in the Committee of Nations. Because if we look at what are the cardinal points of why South is where we are today, is that there was a leadership vacuum. The Igbo leaders who are Igbo leaders were purely politicians. They were not leaders. They were purely politicians who are grabbing for power, who go to Abuja. We never went to our first 11 to Abuja. We don't always do that. So what they normally did was a vacuum of a proper Igbo leader who should be able to speak to the agitations and the problems that people feel belong, whether rightly or wrongly. Because the point for me is always about, yes, do I always believe that positions will be able to cure some of the problems? I don't think so. But there is this sense of that you lost a war since 1970. From 1970, the Nigerian state has made it their responsibility to make sure that once there's a chance of an Igbo man becoming, and especially in the military, you see this kind of fear. I know when Onuvo became IG of police, I didn't think he stayed there for 12 months. The pressure and the tension was so high that going to have to take him out. So we know what happened to the March of Army staff. So when he was even bombing and taking out terrorists, Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast, and we saw there was this mentality that the war is still going on. So at a time, people wanted a leader who should be able to speak to the suffering, even if he can't solve the problems. And that was what gave rise to IPOB. Who had MASOB? We know what happened with MASOB and Wazurike, and we had IPOB. So when that vacuum was created, something happened. People started listening to somebody who they feel is willing to die for their own cause, and immediately everybody gravitated towards him. And when that thing happened, the Igbo leaders lost the metal to be able to speak to them, because at that particular time they wanted somebody who could be an intermediary between them and those who they feel they don't love them. So by the time it triggers the problem, what did Nigerian states do? What did the leaders, those who I call politicians, did? They now ostracized that particular group. By the time they got the group ostracized, what did the group do? The group started fighting back. They went to the house of the leader and they used force. As a side, sometimes force is a good thing, but we believe in the carrot and stick approach. We don't believe in the stick and carrot approach. You'll be able to dangle the carrot first, but at the end of the day, what did they do? They now militarize that particular group, show them that the weapon of coercion is force. That if you coerce a group for people with enough force, they are going to bow. How did they react? They went and got their own ammunition and started fighting back. at the end of the day, it's not between about non-state actors having weapons, light and small weapons in circulation. Because I remember when we saw what happened in Onitsha, where a truckload of ammunition was being passed through Anambra to come to some part of maybe Enugu or Ebonyi. So at that time, people knew that the best way to control what the government was doing against them was to use the same force. And then we got here, we started selling people, killing innocent people to be able to instill that fear. That's why every Monday we sit at home. Any day a group of people give instructions, nobody should go out, and people stop going out, and they were targeting security operatives and we are taking them out. And sometimes some of us will complain that this is not the best approach for this, both for government and the people reacting to these situations, because I always look at the long term in the consequences. Do you have the manpower or the mental power to be able to fight government power for power, ammunition for ammunition? No. Who will become the victim? Your own people. Because it's simple, it's not of emergency. We know what happened at Obiakpo in Rivers State that time. House to house search. Even people who are your enemy can give out your name and you are taken out. So I think at that particular point, that was when we expected the Igbo leader, those who are even politicians, to be able to use their political capital. Because I said in every conflict, there are always politicians who have the political capital across board. There are people that they just like because they believe they are speaking for them or speaking against them. So those who speak against them become their friends. Those who speak for them become their friends. So we're asking those those are the political capital to speak to these boys to understand what are the issues. The issue is that reintegrate us, don't treat us like second class citizens. It was not too much to ask, but because it was politics, because for those who are politicians, they needed the political capital to be able to pass through the east and go scot free. They played it. Now the chicken has come home to roast. We are all in the same issue of sitting down at home. Everybody is affected because that the political class, those who are leaders who saw a vacuum, never feel the need to sacrifice. I keep saying it here that until you have people who are willing to just say it's not about me, let me lay down my life for the future of the next generation. It's not about me, because I keep asking somebody who is 70 or 60 years old or 80 years old, how many years does he think he has again to live in this life, not to use it to build peace among his people? How many years do you think you have to? So I think that at that particular point that we need to develop and evolve as a people, as leaders, to go back to what leadership was for us as a people, which is about somebody who is willing to make sacrifice. That was how communities were built, that was how town halls were built, that was how leaders were built. People who contributed their quota in building little small cell communities build also. I think that until we get those kind of leaders, that is where we'll go to a level where we are, and that vacuum is still in existence.
All right. The new governor of the newest governor, rather, in the Southeast regional bloc, has received both praises and backlashes for his determination to end insecurity in Anambra State. He started by extending the olive branch and saying, "Come, let's talk, let's try to reclaim our land," which sounds like what you're proposing, which is peace. So what does the backlash right now? Because it's like they didn't want that peace. They didn't want to talk with him. He invited them, and I would say he meant it. He wanted to really de-escalate by using peace, positive peace, rather than using force. Now that they didn't take it, it's like it's going back to the military approach. Will you blame a sitting governor for trying to rescue his state from people who are bent on causing mayhem?
Well, I will say yes and no, but before I proceed, I want to tell us that when I talk about positive peace, there are actually pillars or indicators, if you may, that must be present in a society for us to even talk about this positive peace. And in the list, we have a well-functioning government, equitable distribution of resource, free flow of information, acceptance of right of others, good relation with the neighbors, good business environment, low level of corruption, and of course high level of human capital. What I just listed for you is what we should be looking out for in a society that will be present before we even talk about whether this society will enjoy positive peace. And I'll come to what you have just said. A governor invited people that are already armed, for a peace talk. You don't expect them to keep their arms down just like that overnight. You need to convince them that this system they are about to associate with is working and can be trusted. So the governor, what he would have done is to go ahead, like I said, in the list, like equitable distribution of resource, start by creating jobs. When you create job and youths, that overwhelming percentage of Nigerian youth are unemployed, over 75%. So when you, and this mono economy is really biting us very hard. Nigeria have every potential to go into agricultural economy, for example. We have the land, we have the manpower. All the government needs to do is to provide mechanism, the enabling environment for this thing to thrive. So when the governor is calling for peace, what are the youth looking out for to gain from such talk? But if the governor can take a bold step by,
you mean he should have ignored them and continue doing this?
Yes, when I'm coming, like it's just like jumping. He jumped into the process. So the people you are talking to need to believe you, and that is by you doing what they have been expected from the government, which the government have not been doing over time. So if you have gone ahead to do what the people are looking out for from the government, you see that the pressure that is coming from the youth will immediately die down. If you create the job, like I said, if you make the political system less of a oligarchy. Okay, now we are talking about youth in politics, and you have a form going for 40 million. I mean, what are you talking about? So the leaders, the political class, need to understand that they have failed in living up to the expectation of the youth, of the masses entirely. So for them to even talk about positive peace, they should start doing what the constitution is required of them.
Okay. So it's a kind of a sequence. He jumped the sequence.
He jumped it. Okay.
Now, let me continue to engage you on that. Okay. The government will always be left with the options of the kinetic approach and the soft approach, which is positive peace. The soft approach looks too soft for them. They always match them force for force. Even when it appears as not yielding results, it's like nobody's actually looking at, is it really working or not working? Why does it seem they choose force instead of a soft approach?
Because the system over time have welcomed, it's an easy way out for the political class. It's an easy way out, which is not, what have we gained from the force? In fact, it's even getting worse. Because these people, the bandits in the north, the IPOB in the east, they are being taken advantage of by the opposing political class. They are funding them. They are encouraging them to carry out a counter attack and retaliation on the government, trying to use military and police to stop them. So you don't even know who is who when you are using all military approach. But like I said, if the society is died down by the way of this positive approach, by providing amenities for goodness sake, what is to, okay, look at the light situation in the country, electricity situation. How can a youth who have not been employed and chose to be a self-employed survive in a situation whereby I don't even have light?
Okay.
So when the government have failed to do what they are supposed to do, and you are using military to it's not even going to work, because like I said, conflict is like a tree. It has a root, it has a trunk, it has a leaf. So that cause is on the root. We need to address the causes of this. Forget the problem you are seeing. The problem you are seeing, like IPOP in the east, is not even about Biafra. Let me be frank with you. It's about neglection. It's about marginalization. It's about non-inclusiveness. So until you address that.
Do you see what is going on? Insecurity yielding the positive result of good governance?
Say again.
I said, do you see insecurity yielding the good result, the positive result of good governance eventually?
How can that be possible? It's not possible. How can insecurity yield?
Because you're proposing that they give the people good governance.
Yeah.
So do you think we will ever get to a point where the government is pushed to the wall and they will have to do what the people want them to do, even though insecurity was what brought it up?
Not by using this military approach.
Okay.
It's by using this positive peace approach. Yes, that is the only way we can get to the point whereby everybody is at peace with the government.
All right. Let me get back to you, Chigumba.
Yeah.
The people suffer the most and are in the center of the whole crisis. Yeah, sometimes the political class gets affected,
Yeah.
either by one of their own getting kidnapped, but then the majority of the people dying are just ordinary people. What is the role of the people, or shouldn't the people be involved in de-escalating this already tensed situation?
I feel honestly they should. And I think that I always try as much as possible to differentiate what is genuine agitations from what we call crime industry. We have a crime industry, and crime is an industry. So there are people that even if you put them inside the studio and train them to become who you want them to be, they will leave this door and carry a gun to shoot people. It's an industry, and it's the quickest industry for most of politicians to make money. Because, for example, if I'm running elections and it's easier for a politician to give you money, 100 or 200,000, to go shoot people or go cause chaos than for you to be able to train you. So the people, especially the people of the Southeast, need to own up what is the struggle all about. What is the noise all about? Is it purely for us to engender peace? Because most of the agitation, most of the things we are seeing here has been happening for the last 50 years. You know, we could say maybe it's culminated for a long time, so we are now getting to this breaking point. But at the point is that at what point did did we lose our way? That it was understandably good for our people, especially somebody like me, to understand one, for example, that people are stopped from writing their exams, and it made sense to the Southeast people that will stop our children from going to write their WAEC exams. As some of us who are carrying people, we are being threatened by even other local people that they will keep asking you, the one that went to school, did they have jobs? So they will now tell you that they are now feeding in the ignorance of the political class. Because as far as somebody like me is concerned, I believe that poverty is being weaponized, ignorance is being weaponized, and once you weaponize ignorance to the level we are going, we will go to the level of the Northeast. Because I keep asking this particular question, at what point did we react badly? That's why I feel that the approach of Soludo, maybe if we have had this approach in the last 1 year, if we have this kind of engaging approach to be able to look at what the issues are and solve them, I think we have gotten to far extent to where we're going. I'll give a quick example. We saw some communities, because I keep saying that these crimes are localized. You know, these guys that carry guns, you know, come into villages and hurt people or kill people or kill local people, are in some forests, in some communities in the Southeast. And we saw, by the time Soludo became governor, we saw a reaction from a particular part of Anambra, who was able to discover some of these hideouts and were able to burn it down, and there was this reaction. So the people are now coming to the realization that this suffering is not basically about getting the political class, because it's been politicized.
How do you respond to the backlashes that Soludo got?
Let me tell you the truth.
The people seem to be, I say, they share sympathy for those involved.
Let me tell you the truth. You know, this is a crime industry, and people are benefiting massively when people sit at home when there is crime. You know, when you see a governor, let me tell you one thing, you see a governor that has security votes and wants to solve the problem of crime anywhere, there are those even within security sector that doesn't want it to be solved, because you have access to allowances, you have access to money. There are those naturally that crime makes them make more money. We know this is a society, but this is a governor that wants to get this job done. I'll give you an example. When a governor knows that he has about 5 days in a week to be able to formulate policies, translate them into ideas, get the people the manpower, limited manpower to solve the problems, and he knows that in the next 1 year or 2 years, because typically a governor have only 36 months to work, the last final year is for him to do politics. So when the governor is probably on the first lane of trying to bring development to a people, he need to separate what is the struggle all about. That's what he has said. He said, IPOB said we are not in support of the sit at home, and they started naming people they feel are the one causing trouble. So for the governor, this is purely a criminal venture. It has become a crime issue that people have taken up arms to just to benefit from it. Not basically because they are angry something is being done wrong, because I think, personally speaking, that I don't think any governor in the Southeast has the level of political capital Soludo has right now. I don't think any governor, because the reaction of the people to him saying, let us try to revive our lives, especially on Mondays, we received some positive attributes. People started listening to him because I think he has a little bit of the political capital to solve this problem. But the issue is that yes, we could talk about speed or about how he approach or what, but when you call for a peace building process, because the point that the levers of government or whatever we look at it and the system we run, there's what the governor can do, what the governor cannot do. So within the limited levels of his power of what he wants to do to bring government to the local people, it still boils down if the people, I mean our people, you and I, are willing to say, are we enjoying? Because I think that basically that people are beginning to relax and enjoy the insecurity that is going on because they don't want it to end. They see it as I was speaking to somebody say he has a free Monday to sit at home to rest. That the level of work is going through. So people are beginning to assume and reassure themselves that let these things continue after all because it's boiled down to the laziness which is not a function of who we are as Igbo people. So I think that it boils down to if the agitation is basically about development, about development indices and what the issues are, and I think that these are some of the issues that we have. But is that the principal reasons why we sit and see people get murdered? As in you go to a market and somebody will ask you why did that poor woman come out to sell her tomato? Didn't she hear there was it at home? And the poor man is telling you that I need to feed my. So there's no sympathy from ordinary citizens that a poor woman who the levels of government has made it impossible for her to survive, and she needs to feed her family. And a fellow Igbo person is telling you that 2 days you will not die, that 1 day you will not die. But they're not having that sympathy to their fellow citizen who is going through that level of pain or whose car was burnt because he needs to feed his children. So I think they have gotten to that level of our people enjoying we have taken our conscience out of it that after all we are fighting somebody somewhere, we are hurting somebody, and for us those people who think who are our brothers or our sisters who are going through pains, who are being killed, whose food have been poured away, we don't have that sympathy. Oh, this woman is possible, she has no option, this is the only thing she can live on. That sympathy is not there, it's not existing. So the people have to accept that we are going through a whole lot of problems. Let's not add to the more we're having by saying let's protect our brothers and our sister from the military that is going on. That sympathy is not right there, especially in Igbo land.
Let's begin to tie it all up. What are your takeaways and what do you recommend and what are the consequences that will befall us if we fail to adhere to this? Let's start with you, Philip.
Oh, thank you very much. If you can hear from our callers, you can sense the bitterness in their voices. And I will start with the last caller that talked about employment. As a youth of this country, I have to identify with that as a major threat. In fact, the crimes committed, the violence committed are by the youths. And why? Because they have nothing to do. So if the government is willing to solve this insecurity problem once and for all, is by making providing employment for the unemployed and making the environment lively for living, provide amenities for people. I'm telling you, like my co-discussant said, that we are running a criminal economy. Yes, but what is this economy running on? It's on the idle people. So when I say positive peace is building strong institutions, our institutions are handicapped. What we have here are strong men. So our institutions need to be reawakened by way of, for example, the judiciary. If someone commits a crime or embezzle public fund and is jailed for doing so and serve jail time, I'm telling you, nobody will be willing to do this. But what we are I think this week's one time politician was released for pardon. Two of them. So and what message are you passing across to the unemployed person that have gone to school up to the master's level, up to PhD level, no work? So this is what we need to address first. We need to address the empty stomach. Once we get that right, then every other thing will follow. We now talk about amenities. We now talk about providing free flow of information. We now talk about credible election to bring in capable hands, not this pinpointing of leaders.
All right. Let's get your last take, Chimubeze.
Well, I'll say this strongly. I think strong men build strong countries. Our problem is not strong men. Our problem, we have strong men without character. We need to understand that Kwang Jin-yu built South Korea, and we don't think that the way he built South Korea for the level, and I always keep talking about it, he was not as if he was a Democrat. He was never a Democrat, and these was men that decided that they need to be national in building their country. So, but problem is not basically about having maybe this institution, because the system make it even impossible for you to be seen to do what is right, because it's about the culture of character. Yet we have massive issues of unemployment. The numbers are crazy. It's not so right to home about. But I think that we need to start building people. There are people that when they don't have a job, they look for a skill to go and take. They want to survive, but crime is not their first resort. So sometimes we need to start building society of men or young people with character, not what we see on Nollywood or see on social media, that the 22-year-old boy will come home and bring in a car and his father is clapping for him. We didn't grow up in that kind of level. Sometimes you bring in ordinary book that does not belong to you. Your father will ask you to send it back that same day you brought it back home. So I think that it's time for us as a people, as a country, to start revolving on the issues of character, the issues of the content of the character of the young people we are growing, so that when we solve unemployment will be able to help people who are clapping for people now to eat and be good, but people who have decided to put their mind in crime, because I said it's a very big industry where there's so much money in it. So I think that we need to get to that level where we'll say that character means a lot in our people, that when we want to choose political leaders, is it because of the stomach infrastructure? Because I think that the reason why we are here right now is because of stomach infrastructure, because of the rice and the maggi and things that we have collected to vote for people. It's because of stomach infrastructure. So I think that until we people start fighting back, making sure they are not weaponized with poverty, not weaponized, with ignorance, they will be able to get to that level where we can decide as people and say, yes, we have insecurity, but you don't need to burn down the local government for you to make your point. Okay. You don't need to kill people to make your point. But we can make this point by punishing political leaders who refuse to do what is right. We'll make sure that we engage in political process, that those who are bad leaders, we'll make sure we retire them in politics, so that people won't come and become president and pardon those who have committed crime. I think that is my take on this.
Thank you, Chimobeze, and thank you, Philip Eze, too. We had the Ezes today. Thank you so much for joining us. This is where the conversation takes place, and like I will always say, we keep talking until we get it right, until we have another edition of Viewpoint. We'll keep talking. This is the conversation.